It's another beautiful morning, the 2nd of March 2023, and it is the Dailies on Echo Television International, where we keep you up to date with what is happening in Nigeria from our Nigerian newspaper. I'm Stella Elisha Dasham, and Rachel Tanzi is here with me. Good morning,
Morning,
Rachel.
Sally.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great, thank you so much. We're live on Facebook. You can drop your comment and your contribution, and we'll quickly run through the papers, and we'll be starting with the Vanguard newspaper.
On the Vanguard newspaper, Trillion presidential poll, losers should go to court, not streets, coming from Buhari. We will retrieve our mandate in court, Obidati vow. Atiku members, 6 others in Benue villages, and you can find the details of that on page 6. And the big story on the Vanguard newspaper, Tinubu extends olive branch to Atiku, Obi, and Konkoso. The writer says promises to work day and night for Nigerians. Tinubu tells Nigerian youth, I hear you loud and clear. Pledges open door policy, wealth creation, and jobs. Sets up reconciliation committee to meet with Atiku and others. This is coming from Akeredolu. Osibajo, Senate, Oshomole, others salute President-elect. British Prime Minister Sunak congratulates Tinubu. Tinubu's election, a new dawn in Nigeria, coming from IBB. You can start with the big story on page 5 and continue on page 26. Still on the Vanguard newspaper, El-Rufai committee's report, President-elect must respect party supremacy, coming from the APC vice chairman. Reps majority leader Doguwa remanded in prison, and you can find the details on page 7. 10th Senate, APC leads with 51 slots as PDP gets 27, Labour Party 7, and NPP 3, SDP 2, YPP 1% to $1.7 billion. And you can find the details on page 19. We have a column where Olufasan is saying Buhari promised credible presidential poll but delivers a sham. And we have a column for sports also that say we have a returning officer for the 2000 certificate return in the president-elect Bola Tinubu at the INEC National Coalition Center in Abuja yesterday. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper, starting with the big story. Tinubu fulfills lifelong ambition, gets certificate of return, will somehow, someday, coming from Dati. Take grievances to court, not street, Buhari tell Atiku, Obi, and Kwankwaso. Olubadan, ACF, YCE, others congratulate Tinubu, urge caution. You can read more of that story on page 28 of the Blueprint newspaper. Your attribute fertility to progressive ideas needed now, coming from Osibanjo, with the writer switch into action. You have the capacity, coming from Uni and IBB. Victory tribute to Nigerian resilience, be fair to all, coming from El-Rufai and Yankasa. Other stories still on the Blueprint newspaper, Buhari's achievement on security attracting other African nations, coming from Reps, which you can find on page 7, on page 13, and that's all on the Blueprint newspaper.
On this day, and you can continue with our story on page 10. The big story on this day newspaper, Tinubu, my certificate of return is called to duty, I can't ignore. The writer says, tells opponent, their supporters, I understand your hurt. Says he needs them, but Nigerians need them more at this time. Reiterate commitment to progress, development, renewed hope for Nigerians. Election result reflect wish of electorate Akeredolu asserts. Yakasai urges exercise lacks credibility, transparency, situation room declare. And you can continue with our story on page 10 of this day newspaper. And that's all the news on this day newspaper.
Rachel, I'd like us to, will I say dissect, or let's just look at the president-elect's, speech after collecting his certificate of return. And the speech is not far from the speech he made earlier yesterday morning when she was announced as the president-elect. that will be, taking the mandate from the present president,
Yes.
Buhari. Now, he said so many things, trying to call on other aggrieved party members, that's other, opponent party candidates, that's the likes of APC, PDP, Labour Party, and NPP,
Yes.
and those who feel aggrieved and felt that this didn't go in favor of them. And he, I love the fact that for every of his speech, he kept emphasizing the youth, the youth, the youth, because it's not far from what he has been saying throughout his campaign, where he said there will be no strike in tertiary institutions anymore. He said there will be loan for those who want to go into education. You get loan, and then you spend 6 years in school. That was one of the things he said during his campaign. And then he just kind of made it more yesterday during his speech. And I know that definitely, yeah, just like the writers were having from the papers, where we can see Baba Ahmed, that is saying that they will go to court to actually get their mandate back, because they believe it's in favor of them. And there was a comment or part of the speech the president-elect said. He said he knows that he wasn't the preferred candidate for the youths, but he promised to take them along. He's looking forward to when a youth will be collecting the certificate of return, a woman will be collecting the certificate of return. He's looking forward to, no matter where you're coming from, it will not be about your region, your religion, it will not be about your gender, that even a minority of the minority, a tribe that people do not really regard, will actually rule Nigeria someday. It's a very good way to actually start. He's already setting up a committee, reconciliation committee, so he can reconcile with other aggrieved opponents. So I just hope that we've been seeing various party candidates coming out to call their followers to remain calm, to be peaceful. And even the president has said if people are not happy with what is happening, they should go to court and not the street. And I'm really happy so far. I've not seen, in fact, everybody's going about his business. Nobody is, somebody jokingly said that the 8 million voters that actually voted for the president, how come we cannot see jubilation on the street and on social media? Everywhere seems quiet. Well, that is just, on a lighter note, people are actually saying what they want to say, because Nigerians just have a way of making light of everything that is happening. We just have a way of making ourselves excited, whether things are happy or things are not moving well. We just want to be happy. But I really want to applaud the president-elect for the gesture. His speech really, it's a way of, saying that we need the best of the best to come together and let us work to make Nigeria great, because eventually the president is not going to be ruling just the Yorubas or just the Igbos or just in Lagos. He'll be the president for all of us eventually. So I think it's high time we embrace this space, in as much as we still have people who are aggrieved, and eventually they will be going to court. But then let's do this in a calm and in a peaceful way, and let us just embrace peace, because above all, we want to be a united nation. We can't be divided at a time like this. So I just hope that we'll abide this spirit of being calm and being gentle.
And what Nigerians need to understand is that whether it's a free and fair election, your candidate doesn't have to always win the election, or won't always come out as the winner. And that's how it is. And the president is saying, the president-elect is saying that he knows it hurts. Of course it does. If I was running with you, Sele, and you won, I will congratulate you, but then it hurt because I wanted to be the winner, of course. But then Nigerians should understand that even if it was a free and fair election, and as it is, INEC are assuring us that it was free and fair election, your most preferred candidate didn't win the election, because a lot of people are saying they won't come out for the next election and all of that. But what they don't understand is that things have changed this election, and change doesn't happen overnight. And I believe that the problem we have as citizens is we don't know, we didn't speak as much as we wanted to speak this election. It will speak 4 years from now. So let Nigerians just stay put. There are people on social media videos where some have destroyed their PVC, and I like to say that's very wrong, because being a patriotic citizen, there's more to that voter's card that you have. Don't be angry. Change is a process, and gradually we've sent a message as Nigerian youth that this is what we want and we will not settle for less, and the message has been loud and clear. It might not be the result we wanted, but I know that change is taking place.
Yeah, you make mention of patriotism, and I just want to encourage somebody out there that I've been saying it and I'll keep saying it as far as we're still in this election period, that if your patriotism is actually with a candidate and not with your country, then all this while you've just been a hypocrite and lying to yourself, maxing yourself that I am a patriotic citizen. So I just want to implore you that you please put your hands together and realize that being patriotic is beyond a candidate, but it goes a long way to actually contribute to the welfare of Nigeria. So I just hope that we'll abide this peaceful mode, being patriotic no matter what it is. And for the observations that have been made about the beavers that were not working well, the servers that people were unable, especially the resort viewing portal, that
Yes.
people kept trying and trying and trying. We tried it here on Saturday, and then the portal wasn't working. So eventually it shows that something went wrong somewhere. So I hope all of these technical hitches will be addressed before the gubernatorial election that is coming in some of the states. Most of the states, I think over 26 states, will be having a gubernatorial election on that 11th of March. So I hope that all of this will be addressed, because eventually we'll still be using the beavers. Of course, the National Collation Center has been closed, but we'll be having the state collation centers open. So we don't want to have another aggrieved people. We don't want to hear people coming up to complain, because even yesterday, while the president was collecting the president-elect was collecting his certificate of return, we had civil society outside. People were protesting. There were placards, some of which were having Nigerians reject the election result. Nigeria is not an item for sale, and so many placards people were holding to just show their grievances that things didn't go as. So I hope that INEC will actually not think they are being attacked as a body, but then where they actually didn't get it properly, I think it's another time to readdress. Let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper. And on polls, UK urges federal government to look into concerns of opposition, with the writer congratulates Tinubu. You can find that story on page 27 of the Daily Sun newspaper. President-elect makes firm promise. Tinubu says, I will work with everybody. The writer says he, Vice President-elect, gets certificates of return, war opponents. Governors Kalu, ECOWAS, and others hail victory. You can find that on page 6, 8, and 26 of the Daily Sun. Buhari admits fault in electoral process, encourages aggrieved parties to seek justice in court. You can find that on page 26. House Majority Leader Al-Hassan Ado Doguwa arrested, remanded in Kano prison. 109 billion naira fraud trial of ex-accountant general stalled over missing statement. I hope we get the statement and fix all of this thing, so we can actually show that the rule of law is actually having its full course. If you do anything that is not appropriate, nobody is above the law. So we hope that the law will take its course. So wherever the statement or wherever some of these things are missing, they should be found as soon as possible. Still on Daily Sun, we will challenge election outcome in court. Obi's running mate, Dati is saying that. Says APC defeated Labour Party through illegality. Urges Nigerians to vote party at Guber elections. You can find that on page 6. We can still see the picture of the president-elect Bola Tinubu with his wife standing by his side while he collects his certificate of return. Downside of the paper, JAM dismisses 2 staff over professional misconduct. You can find that on page 29, and that's all on the Daily Sun.
On the First News newspaper, Peter Obi breaks silence on INEC's declaration of Tinubu winner. Tells supporters, I will address you soon. Tinubu, best man for the job, aggrieved opposition should go to court, coming from Buhari. You have built bridges. Osibanjo congratulates Tinubu. INEC uploads 82% of results 4 days after presidential polls. And the big story on the First News, I'll work tirelessly to make Nigeria better, Tinubu vows, as INEC presents him Shetima certificates of return. Many angry, hurt, I shall be fair to all Nigerians, says President-elect. Renewed hope has landed in Nigeria. Tinubu leads APC governors on thank you visit to Buhari in Daura. UK congratulates Tinubu, urges federal government to address opposition's concerns. Consider government of national unity, Fayemi tells Tinubu. ACF chief Tan Yakasai warns Tinubu against unity government. Reps Majority Leader Dogua sent to prison over murder arson as police detain Kano Rep-elect. Tinubu's victory well deserved, says Afebwa, urges President-elect to be magnanimous, accommodate opponents. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
Let's go on a break because we still have a lot of other papers we would like to review. And when we come back, we'll continue with the newspaper review. Please do not go, and we'll be right back after the break. Thank you for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on Echo Television International. We've been looking at various stories that have been making the lines on our papers this morning. We saw the president-elect collecting his certificate of return. We have presidents of other countries congratulating him, and also the president has, called on aggrieved parties to actually go to court and not the streets. And already lots of reactions are coming on the papers. But we'll just keep you up to date with all that have been happening on the paper. I still have Rachel Tanzi here with me in the studio. Thank you so much,
You're
Rachel.
welcome, Sarah.
Yes, remember you can be part of this conversation by dropping your comment and your contribution on our Facebook or YouTube pages, and you can follow us on other of our social media handles, and you can actually be actively involved in all that is happening in the studio this morning. Let's keep up with the newspaper review, and I'll be taking the Guardian newspaper. INEC dash hopes of Nigerians, Christian coalition alleges. You can read that on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Tinubu tax on APC overrule inconclusive administration. Election result collided in People's Home. Labour Party chieftain alleges. You can find that too on page 7. Dogua orders remanded for alleged culpable homicide. You can read that too on page 29. The big story, Tinubu extend olive branch, invite youth to rescue Nigeria with the rider. Yaga Africa contract the INEC on Rivers and Imo result. We have lost confidence in INEC. Situation room declares. Protesters storm Abuja Unity Fountain. Niger demand fresh election. Coming from Buhari, losers should take their grievances to court, not streets. APC set up committee to meet aggrieved presidential candidates. Your attributes needed at this time, Uzibanjo congratulates Tinubu. Obi breaks silent promises to address Nigerians. Dati vows to use legal means to reclaim mandate, tackles Lawan for trying to rewrite Electoral Act. You can find that on the front page and also read more of that on page 6. We have the picture story where we still have the president like collecting his certificate, and downside we can see the protesters in front of the National Coalition Center. We can see some of the writings on the placards here: no beavers, civil society organization, and many other placards have were being held by some aggrieved civil society and also some youths there. Other stories still on the Guardian: TUC deploys presidential poll result as NLC greet elected Labour Party lawmakers. And we have other stories on the paper, so you can do well, get the Guardian, read any story that is of interest to you.
On the Nation newspaper, poll results reflect will of Nigerians, says Buhari. UK Prime Minister Macron, IBB Hill, Tinubu and Shettima. Tinubu's victory excites capital market coming from a stockbroker's set agenda. FEC OK's Africa Union Convention on Cross-Border Cooperation. You can find the details on page 6. And the big story, I hear you loud and clear, President-elect tells youth. The writer says young Nigerians will get full attention. Tinubu promises good governance, functional economy and security. President-elect, VP-elect get COR. And you can see also pages 2, 3, 7 and 6 for the story, and you can also continue on page 4. We have jam sacks 2 over alleged forgery. Excited Osun Ondo residents celebrate Tinubu, and you can find the details on page 9. We have a column at the down that says all your free health services, and that's all the news on Nation newspaper.
On Daily Independent newspaper, Yaga Africa faults INEC on Rivers and Imo presidential poll result. And you can read that story more inside the paper, where Yaga Africa on Wednesday announced that the Independent National Electoral Commission announcement of the presidential election in Rivers and Imo State is in sharp contrast with their own record to serve from the polls. So you want to know more about what Yaga Africa is saying, you can read that story on page 29. On 2023 election, this grave injustice shall not stand, coming from Articles 8, says battle to retrieve stolen mandate is battle of no retreat, no surrender. You can read that. And he says Nigerians will thank God they elected Tinubu president, coming from Smart Adeyemi. You can read more of that story inside the paper. The big story for Daily Independent: Tinubu seeks support, says he's servant of larger purpose, urges the aggrieved to shun violence and seek legal recourse. Lead APC Governors Party chairman on thank you visit to Buhari. UK Prime Minister congratulates Tinubu on electoral victory. Yankasa asks President-elect to embrace all Nigerians. You can find that on page 29. Protests in Abuja over alleged manipulation of 2023 general election. Still on 2023 election, police in Kaduna banned celebration and rallies, and I think it's the right way, because some of the celebration, even though I said I didn't see any of it, but then I think to a way they're trying to minimize it, because even on the nation we saw, some states that are actually jubilating and celebrating it. But let's be very, very careful, just like I have been concerned about this protest. Yes, we have the right, or the people have the right rather, to actually come out and express their grievances. But we know the way protest goes in this country, that the moment few individuals that are aggrieved are protesting, some people somewhere are after very good. They always have a way of hijacking this protest, and then before realizing, they are lost of lives and properties. So I just hope that for every protest, let us have if the people want to go on a protest, maybe there should be security agents that will be there to monitor and make sure that it doesn't escalate and actually cause any trouble whatsoever. So I think that is what Kaduna government is trying to avoid, that this rally do not turn to something else. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed, and you can read more of that on page 6. Court remands Reps Majority Leader Dogwa. You can read that on page 6. And on alleged 109 billion fraud, former Accountant General's missing statements told the trial. And on presidential election, we will fight injustice done to Nigerians. Dati Baba Ahmed assures. Berates Lawan over comment on e-transmission of results. You can read more of that on the front page and also page 7. Masari meets Buhari optimistic of Christina Guba poll outcome. You can find that too on page 7, and that's all on Daily Independent.
On Nigerian Tribune, CSOs demand audit report of 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections. The writer says, past vote of no confidence in electoral process adopted by INEC. Alleged homicide Reps Majority Leader Doguwa to be remanded in prison. You can find the details on page 6. And the big story, I will work to make Nigeria better, coming from Tinubu. The writer says, since reconciliation with Atiku, Obi and others, as INEC presents certificate of return to him and Shetima. Buhari, IBB, Lawan, governors, others congratulate President-elect. And you can read the details of the story on page 3. Maiduguri Monday market fire. Police arrest 50 suspects for alleged looting. FEC okay $61.5 million, 16.133 billion naira for power contracts award. Herdsmen invade Ondo communities, destroy farms, injure farmers. You can find the details on page 29. We will retrieve our mandate, Atiku Okowa campaign vows. The writer says Labour Party to fight the injustice. Vice presidential candidate Ohaneze Indibo rejects 2023 presidential election results. You can read the details of this story on page 2 and 8. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On New Telegraph newspaper, Tier 2 bank customer deposit rise to 20.07% to 8.60 trillion naira. You can find more on page 3. CBN to issue 1.14 trillion naira treasury bills in the second quarter of 2023. You can find that on page 25. Reps applaud Buhari on national security reform. You can find that on page 7. APC's victory, Port Harcourt voters vow to repay PDP in Guba polls. You can find that on page 28. Alleged attempt to hack into INEC server should be probed, coming from Falana. You can read more of that story too inside the paper. Dogwa remanded in prison till March 7 over allegation of culpable homicide. You can find that on page 30. And on presidency, Tinubu received certificate of return, urges Nigerians to shade artificial restriction of bias and prejudice. And he says he will receive goodwill messages from President Marco, and then on the polls outcome shows democracy ripened. This is coming from Buhari. Your progressive welfareist ideals needed now, Zibanjo cancels. IBB, Lawan, Bajabian, Miller, Kalu, Governors Unyi, YCE and others facilitate with the president-elect. APC Governors Forum made Tinubu presidency a reality, coming from Akiri Dodo. You can read all of that on page 2, 3, 5, 26, 27, and 28. Poll challenges not enough to invalidate results. Coming from Buhari. You can find that on page 3 and 30. Expect another severe flooding, coming from Nema DG, and I hope we take this warning seriously to prevent what happened last year from repeating itself or more. Ozibanjo to international community, support AU ECOWAS in rejecting coup. You can find that on page 2. And from the police, we found electoral materials in Abuja property. Missing statements store ex-accountant general trial in alleged 109 billion naira fraud, which you can find on page 5 and 7. And that is also saying on the New Telegraph, we will reclaim our mandate, says incoming government illegal, unconstitutional. Employ legal means to seek redress on outcome, FEC tell aggrieved parties. And on the result, this quiet protests in Abuja, Edo, and others. You can find that on page 4 and 30. We have a study that links artificial sweetening to heart attack and stroke. So for those who are interested in that study, you can read more on page 27, and that's all on New Telegraph.
On the Punch newspaper, banks' assets rise to 73 trillion naira. This is a report coming from CBN. Grant Nigerians visa on arrival, federal government tells India. Marketers to sanction depots, filling station overpricing fuel. You can find the details on page 19. The trader who changed the game, coming from Peter Obi. And if you want to read more of that, turn to page 12 of the Punch newspaper. Tinubu woos Atiku Obi as parties reject resolve. The writer says PDP, Labour Party, and NPP, others refuse to sign election results sheet in Abuja. Buhari, Osibajo, UK, ECOWAS, Senate, governors congratulate President-elect. Obi campaign moves legal battle as Tinubu visits Buhari in Dara. And we have a chart where we can see the outcomes of the results all over the country. And that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
On the Leadership newspaper, Kano killing Dugwa arraigned sent to prison. You can find that on page 6. Talks attack Sokoto PDP campaign office. You can find that too on page 6. We have a trending 80 shops gutted by fire at Gumi Market in Kano. Only 24% of CBN anchor borrowers loan recovered, coming from the IMF. Assemble your economic team now, experts tell Tinubu. You can find more of that because we have where it says that business and economic experts have urged the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu to immediately commence preparation to hit the ground running once he is sworn in as president in order to arrest the current economic downturn. So you can read more on what they are telling him on how to secure the economy of Nigeria on page 7. Ozibanjo urges collective action against insecurity and coups. The big story says Tinubu seek Atiku Obi other support for greater Nigeria. Says let politics give way to national building, pledges not to disappoint Nigerians. President Muhammadu Buhari, UK Prime Minister, ECOWAS leaders, governors and others congratulate President-elect. PDP Labour Party vows to seek redress and recover mandates. Others still on the leadership, we have how foreign press reported Tinubu's declaration, why presidential poll will affect governorship and assembly elections. We can find that on page 7. And just to add more emphasis, let's not allow anything to affect the gubernatorial election and also the House of Assembly's election, because eventually this election is equally as important as the presidential election. So let's still come out in mass, do what we need to do. At the end of the day, you are at peace because you've played your part as a Nigerian. True. So let's not have allowed this to cause a voter apathy where we see that there will be low turnouts. Already from what INEC is giving us, it seems that is what the documents are saying, that there was voter apathy. But most of us, or will I say, the people out there, from the calls we've been receiving, we've seen otherwise, because people really turn up. So I really wonder why the figures we're having does not tally with what eventually happened. Yeah. So we just hope that regardless of what it is, let's not allow anything, because we're bitter, to affect us. So I'm calling on Nigerians to please come out in mass for the gubernatorial election and also the House of Assembly. Borno market fire, police arrest 50 for looting. You can find that on page 6 of the Leadership newspaper. We still have the picture story of the president-elect collecting his certificate, and that's all on the Leadership newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Seplat Energy grows profit before tax to 86.7 billion naira. Buhari to inaugurate 50 megawatt Maiduguri gas plant today. 109 billion naira fraud trial. No document missing in ex-AGF Idris case file, coming from EFCC. My doors are open to my opponents, Tinubu president-elect is saying that. And the writer says, receive certificate of return as Obi's silent Atiku daddy threatens legal battle. Tinubu has demonstrated ability to build bridges coming from Osinbajo. Tinubu, a good man for the job coming from IBB. I am relieved, a statement from El-Rufai. Swing into action, free Nigerians from unbearable hardship, Oni to Tinubu. Your victory a testament to the faith of Nigerians in your leadership, coming from Governor Bello to Tinubu. How we load kids with biscuit and magical rings. This is a 16-year-old suspect and confessing to this kind of acts. And you can find the details on page 16. And I'd like to urge our parents to do more concerning telling our kids not to accept things from strangers. And still on President-elect Ayatollah Owoye Oluwo celebrates Tinubu's victory. And we can see a picture story where we can see President Buhari with the president-elect Bola Tinubu and El-Rufai and Sanwo-Olu, governor of Lagos. And that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
All right, let's take a look at what the World of Business have for us on Business Day newspaper. With the big story, March 11, eyes on Lagos orders as battleground shift. The dust from the presidential and National Assembly election has yet settled, but one thing is clear, a major upset occurred and is threatening to revert during the polls slated for March 11. In Lagos, Nasarawa, Delta, and 19 other states, political calculations failed to deliver the goods from many candidates. Bola Tinubu, the former governor of Lagos, and the new president-elect lost its stronghold state for the first time in more than 20 years to Peter Obi. So eyes are actually trying to see if Lagos will be able to deliver to APC for the gubernatorial election. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and we'll keep Nigerians updated with whatever happens. Still on Business Day newspaper, Nigerians voter turnout hit lowest ever as Tinubu wins. You can find that on page 31. Tinubu's 6 trillion naira challenge, you can find that story too on page 30. Labour Party heads to court, and we have extortion remains threat to Apapa call-up system 2 years after. Forex crisis, how next president can restore investors' confidence. And just like we saw from the earlier paper on the leadership, how economics are calling on the president-elect immediately. He's been sworn in, he should, get working to actually set everything in place. And that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Sporting Sun newspaper, about the FIFA Best Award, I am the best, not Messi, a statement coming from Benzema. Mbappe has 4 months left to trigger PSG contract extension. We have a big story that says aftermath of weekend brace, Nice gives Murphy iPhone worth 840,000 naira. Saudi club ready to offer Messi 88 million euro per year. Gerrard back to coach Messi Mbappe at PSG. Kante close to signing new 3-year Chelsea deal. And then we have Chukwueze to party hard March 10. And you can find the detail on page 6. Ten Hag wants Man United to sign 140 million rated Osimhen. Egyptian referee to take charge of Nigeria-Uganda clash, and you can find the details on page 6. Ansu Fati past fit for classical clash. And we have a story that says Kobe Bryant's widow awarded $29 million after crash photos shared. And that's all the news on Sporting Sun.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. Thank you to Nigerians for always being patriotic, for always being peaceful, and for being, living in peace and harmony, because we cannot overemphasize the importance of that. Thank you to the crew members and to everyone that make this program a success. Until we come your way again, to have a blessed day ahead.